and welcome. So today I thought we would just do a quick video about like the pros and cons of owning rats for someone who might be thinking about rats. It needs to know just a little bit about them to pique their interest. So a couple of disclaimers as usual. One, I'm going to be doing a pro and a con together, just so it doesn't feel overwhelmingly positive or overwhelmingly negative at the same time. And two, I'm going to be talking about rats as a whole, not specific varieties of rats, because obviously certain varieties are going to have different health issues, different pros, different cons, and we're just going to be talking about them as a whole. So the first pro I will talk about is the obvious one, which is that rats are cute and funny. They have a lot of silly behaviors. They are bouncy, they're happy. They give kisses and they're adorable. Their faces are just so precious all the time. I mean, I was won over by a rat because my teacher brought her rats to school one day, or she did it multiple times, but you know. My teacher brought her rats to school and I wandered over to look at the cage, and she pulled out her rat Oreo, who was a Rex mink hooded, I believe, tapir, and she just put her right on my chest, and I looked down and she looked up and I was just like, oh no, because she was just so cute. On the flip side of that, the con is that while they are very cute and funny animals, they can come with a lot of behavioral problems depending on lineage, circumstance, where you get them from. Like, there's a lot of things that can cause behavioral problems, which can include things like biting or fighting with their cage mates that might result in needing to be spayed and or neutered. And that can be very expensive, and it's also not pleasant for you, the owner, who might be bitten, and rat bites can be very, very painful. They can damage your nerves, they can leave you with permanent scarring, they can get infected really quickly. I've seen some bad bites. Next pro is that rats can adapt very well to what you need them to be for the amount of attention they get, basically. So like if you have cats and dogs, you know that a lot of people say that dogs are, super dependent. They follow you around. They need to be with you all the time. They're just always in the way, some could say. And then some people say that cats are super independent. They don't need you. They're not going to follow you around. That's not the case with my cats. My cats follow me from room to room to room. But some could say that cats are independent and they don't really need you that much. Rats can go either way. So if you want to spend 4 hours with them cuddling on the couch, they will do that with you. They will sit with you for hours and hours, just sometimes causing mischief, sometimes just curled up next to you sleeping. They will do whatever you want to do. But if you don't have the time or the desire to do that and you just want to spend like a little bit of time with them, rats will also be okay with that. They'll come out when you want to say hi, they'll get attention, and then when you want to leave, they'll be like, okay, bye, and they'll go into their hammock and they'll go to sleep. So they are very adaptable to what you need. So if you're someone who likes a really, really dependent, cuddly pet, rats will work for you. And if you're someone who likes a pet that can be left alone for a long time, rats will also work for you. Now, a con is that bonding with them can be pretty hard depending on the rat. So a lot of people will say that if you don't get a rat from a breeder, they're harder to bond with. I have very strong opinions about breeder rats versus rescue rats versus rehomed rats. I won't necessarily get into that here. I can save that for another video. But I will say in my experience, it's very rat dependent, because I've had rescue rats that I bonded with immediately. I've had rehomed rats that I bonded with immediately, and I've had breeder rats that took a long, long time to form a bond with. And they're good rats. All of them are good rats. It's just certain rats are harder to bond with. And that's okay for me. But for some people, they do want a more instant connection with their pet, and I understand that. You see like everyone else having this like amazing, wonderful time with their pet, and you want that. But it can take time. It can take a lot of time with rats, depending on the rat. I've had rats for months before they really got cuddly with me or they accepted me. Like Fifey, for example, so she's somewhere in here. She might be in the lump over here. But Fifey, for example, she was a very shy baby. And I'd say for the first year of her life, she didn't really want too much to do with me. But then at some point, she completely settled in. She completely started to trust me. And like, she wasn't afraid of me necessarily. She just didn't really want attention. And then all of a sudden, I was her favorite thing on the planet. And she was like constantly giving me attention. She wants to be pet. I have so many videos of her just like looking at me so lovingly while I pet her. And it took a long time to get to that point. And I had no problem with that. But some people, possibly you watching this, would like a much more cuddly animal immediately. So our next pro is that they can be fed a wide range of foods, and I find that people think that's fun. They like to give their pets a lot of treats, and sometimes that's difficult when you have like an animal, like a dog or a cat, that has like a bad reaction to a lot of foods, or certain foods are toxic to them. Like, neither my cat or my dog can have anything with garlic or onion in them because it can, unalive them. Whereas the rats can have both of those things and it's fine. Like, too much raw onion might upset their tummy, but they can have onion and it's okay. Same with chocolate. Chocolate is toxic to both dogs and cats, but rats can have it in moderation because it is still fatty and they're very small animals. But yeah, and I find people really enjoy just giving their rats all sorts of foods because it is fun and it's fun watching them eat. So the next con is that they can be very loud pets. So rats, they have a number of behaviors. It's very loud. So like, they like to chew on things. It's rat dependent, obviously. Some rats are quieter, some rats make more noise. They like to chew things. If you give them chew toys, they can make a lot of noise. They like to nest. If you give them paper, that makes a lot of noise. If you have a wheel in their cage, that can make a lot of noise. I have silent wheels, but their little feet still make a lot of noise when they're running on them, so that I can hear them when I'm not even in the room. Their water bottles make a lot of noise. They squeak when they play or when they fight or when they have dominance issues to work out. If they get hurt, they'll squeak much louder. And chewing, when they're eating, it can make a lot of noise, especially if you have like a homemade mix. So like, my mix has a lot of seeds and grains and pasta in it, and it makes a ton of noise. And if you are noise sensitive, or they're in your bedroom when you're trying to sleep, this can be a problem. Now, I do admittedly have 3 cages of rats in my bedroom, and I sleep just fine. I sleep very deeply. When I go out, if it's a noise I'm used to, I'll just sleep through it. I only wake up when it's an abnormal noise. So like, the rats don't bother me. I've had rats for 14 and a half years, and they've been in my bedroom that entire time. Speaking of noise, hello, Bake. What you doing, Bacon Shake? What you doing? You're not posing for the camera. Baker, my baby boy. Can I get a kiss? Thank you, such a good boy. So our next pro is that rats can be very happy with cheap toys. They're good with homemade toys. So there's a wide range of things that you can make them that you just have. Toilet paper rolls. Every rat owner on the planet has a drawer somewhere in their house or a cabinet that is just filled with every toilet paper roll or any kind of cardboard tube or boxes, because you can just put those in the rat cage and they love it. They'll shred it, they'll use it for a nesting material, or you can fold it up and make a cheap foraging toy. You can also get like cupcake tins and string them together and make another toy like that, and it's super cheap. There's so many options that you can do with cheap items that you get from even the dollar store and make toys for your rats, and they will love them. Like, I have toilet paper tubes in all these cages. Fifey loves to shred them and use them in her nest. So like, when you look online, there is a lot of stuff that is more expensive that you can get them, but they're also happy with the cheaper stuff. However, the next con is that I would not consider them cheap pets by any means. I definitely spend way more on my rats than I do on my dog or my cats. And admittedly, I have way more rats than either my dog or my cats. But even if that wasn't the case, I do think I would still spend more on my rats because they just need so much more. You can get cheap dog toys and cheap cat toys very easily. You can make cheap rat toys, but they still need a cage, they still need bedding regularly, they still need food and water bottles and hammocks and toys and ropes and all this stuff that you're not necessarily going to be able to find cheaply. And then to further it, they do need the vet. So like, in a single visit, a cat will probably cost you more than a rat, yes. Like, I did blood work on my dog recently and it costs $400 or something. And that's the price of 2 surgeries for my rats. However, that's at a cheap vet for rats. Most vets will charge more than that for even a single surgery. It can get very pricey. And the thing with rats is, since you have to have more than one rat, you're going to be getting those expenses more frequently, especially since the chances are the 2 to 3 rats you get at once are going to be around the same age. So it's going to be like a 1, 2, 3 punch when it happens. So like right now, this entire cage of girls is approaching 2 years old, and I've been getting hit one after the other with their health issues due to their age. Rats don't live very long, so it can just feel like a constant drain of your bank account when they just continuously get sick. Whereas you can go years, depending on the health of your free-range animal, such as cat or dog, without having to really spend that much at the vet. You cannot do that with rats. You will end up spending money on them at the vet. So another pro is that rats have so many varieties. They come in all sorts of colors and coat types and even sizes. I have 2 dwarf rat velveteens up here, which means they have a curly coat that's super soft, and they are about this big. So like my smallest dwarf is 96 grams, and that's Junimo, who's up here, and my largest rat is Ezra, who is 620 grams. I have black rats, and I have brown rats, I have gray rats, I have whitish rats, the Siamese, and I have orangish rats, which are my fawns. I have martins. Like no 2 of my rats are the same variety other than Sunny and Cloud, who are both Siamese top ears. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to have a wide variety of colors and coat types and size types too, I guess, that you can get with rats. They were domesticated long enough ago that you can just breed different things, and there's still new varieties that are being bred for, or fairly new varieties being found within the last 20 years. I think Silvermane was found like within the last 20 years. I'd have to double check that, but I think. The next con, however, is that rats come with loads of health issues as well as varieties. So yeah, there is so many things that rats can get. They have extremely sensitive respiratory systems. They're prone to tumors. Even male rats get tumors. It's more common that female rats get tumors, but it is not uncommon that males get tumors. They have aggression issues, which can only be fixed by spaying or neutering a lot of the time. They get ear infections, they get eye infections, they get skin infections, they get cancers. Female rats are prone to all the same reproductive issues that other female species are prone to. Males can get cancer, like reproductive cancers as well. Come with so many issues. And again, a lot of the time, you're going to be spending a lot of money at the vet. And even if you're not spending a lot of money at the vet, a lot of time these issues aren't fixable. So rats get things like Zimbald's gland tumors, which is an aggressive form of tumor that they get on their jaw, and unfortunately it is always fatal. They get things like pituitary tumors, which is a brain tumor, and again, it's always fatal. You cannot operate on those kinds of things. So another pro is that rats can be trained to do all sorts of tricks. I don't train my rats to do tricks. That's not something I personally enjoy. I think it's cute and I like seeing it because there's so many things they can do, all sorts of tricks that they can learn, and a lot of people do enjoy that. If that's something you've enjoyed with other pets, then you can train rats to do all sorts of things. And a con, however, is that you will be cleaning constantly. So if you have any sort of loose substrate, which you really should, they will kick out so much substrate. They will kick out bedding all over the place. I give them crinkle paper bedding for them to nest with, and behind this cage there's just like a pile of it every week that I have to clean out because Fifey nests with it and it gets pushed out the back and disappears down to the bottom of my floor. Even if you do something like a bioactive base, a lot of times your rats will just kick out handfuls and handfuls of dirt all over your floor. So there is so much cleaning. You will vacuum more than you have ever vacuumed before. And that's not even including cleaning up after free roam, doing their cage, cleaning their items that are in the cage, the hospital cages and the intro cages and the carriers. There is so much cleaning. And laundry, rat laundry. I do so much rat laundry. The next pro is that rats can form extremely strong bonds with you. So rats are very, very loving animals. They kind of get, I think, a bad rep from people who don't take very good care of them. Like if you get a rat and you don't properly care for them, it's going to be harder for them to bond with you. So like even when I was in high school, I had a friend who didn't want anything to do with my rats because he had held a rat once before and that rat bit him. So he was really surprised when I handed him my rat Boo, and Boo was just really sweet and cuddly. And the thing is, if you don't take care of them and bond with them and make sure that they're well adjusted, neutered or spayed if they need to be spayed, work with them, they won't bond with you. But even if it takes a long time, when they do bond with you, they bond very deeply. I have rats that come out to greet me every single time I walk past the cage. When I wake up in the morning, everyone comes out of their cages to say hi to me before I've even gathered my clothes up for the morning. I will turn on the light and I'll turn around and Barber will be like poking his head out up here. Junimo and Jojo will be on their box up here. Sometimes Warren will be at the bars. They are always excited to see me. Like a dog, like a lot of people say they bond like a dog, and they do. They can form bonds with you like a dog. I personally, admittedly, I'm not much of a dog person. I adore my dog, but I'm not a dog person. I personally have stronger bonds with my rats than I have ever had with any of my dogs. The next con is that finding a good vet can be very difficult. So for rats, you're going to need an exotic vet. Anything that's not a cat or a dog is considered either exotic or livestock, so you'll need a specific vet for those animals. Obviously, rats aren't livestock, so you need an exotic vet. So anything from rats, hamsters, rabbits, anything you can find in a pet store that is not cat or dog, you need a specific type of vet. And finding one can be very difficult. A lot of places don't even have one near them. A lot of towns, don't even have one within them. And then to boot, some vets will treat them, but they don't have the training or experience to treat them properly. So you'll find a lot of vets that just kind of throw Baytril at every single problem, or don't understand what's going on, or they're willing to treat like a respiratory issue because that does just require Baytril and Doxy, but they don't know how to fix tumors or ear infections or all the myriad things that can go wrong with a rat. They'll only treat respiratory issues, which is not very helpful to you as an owner because obviously your rat's going to get issues that aren't just respiratory. The next part is both a pro and a con, which is what rats do for your mental health. So I personally am very close with my rats. They do a lot for me. They can be very beneficial to your mental health because they can sense when you're sad. They don't want you to be sad. They are very affectionate, loving animals who want to be with you all the time. And like Orville right now, I don't know if you can see her, but she's right here. She's just like so interested in what I'm doing. And that can be very beneficial to a lot of people who, might be going through a hard time or might have some mental health issues. I personally have pretty bad anxiety, and my rats do a lot for me in that regard. For example, we moved last year and I did not handle the move very well. So I leaned very heavily on my rats, especially the Weather Girls and my girl gang here. Like, they did so much for me during that time. But on the flip side of that, when you care so much about your rats, especially if you're already prone to anxiety, you fall into a routine of constantly worrying. Oh, is someone making noise? Is that a tumor I see? Are they walking funny? Are they breathing funny? It can be like an ongoing cycle where you're just constantly worried about them. And it can get to a point where it's hard to enjoy them as much. Again, I've had rats for 14 and a half years. I've been on both sides of it, where they've done wonders for my mental health, but also they've done harm to it where I'm just constantly worried about them. And it's not fun having something you love so much kind of fall into more of a worry category. Now for me, I know that it'll come back around when that happens. But for some people, it's really hard to get out of that cycle of thinking. And it can be hard. That's all I'm saying. It can be hard. Next item is also a pro and a con, which is that if you are currently in a position where you're not entirely sure you can commit to an animal for 10 plus years, Rats don't live very long. They have an average lifespan of 2 to 3 years, and average does not mean guaranteed. I find that it's much more accurate to say they live about 1.5 to 3 years, because 1.5 years is when the issues start cropping up, and sometimes those issues, as I've mentioned, cannot be fixed. So if you want a pet but you're not in a position where you can say, I can have a cat or a dog or a rabbit or something else that lives 10 or more years, then rats might be perfect for you. Now, you will have to figure out, if you choose not to continue owning them, you will have to figure out what to do with your remaining rats. But a short-term commitment is exactly what some people need. On the flip side of that, rats only live 2 to 3 years. So imagine, as I said earlier, a lot of people bond to rats the way they would a dog. So imagine you got 3 puppies and knew that they were going to pass away within 3 years. And then you had to get 3 more puppies for those puppies. And it was just this constant cycle. It's a lot of death. When you have small animals, any kind of small rodent that doesn't live very long and is social, it's a lot of sickness, it's a lot of death, and it never feels like enough time. And that is hard. That can be very hard. Even Cappy says she needs a break from rats right now because she's only had 5, but it's very hard. She's lost 3, she has 2, and it was just very, very hard on her. And it just is like that. You just have a lot of grief in your life when you have rats. Another thing that is both a pro and a con, rats are very, very smart. So like, they're smart, so you can train them to do tricks, and you can give them toys and stuff and watch them figure it out. You can watch them try and build nests and make them perfect. It's fun watching them figure things out, even if it's something you didn't want them to figure out. There's like a sense of joy in watching them like outsmart you, because they will, at least once, they will outsmart you. On the downside of that, they will outsmart you. So they will figure out how to escape. They will figure out how to wiggle out of surgical vests that they've been put in. They will figure out how to do things you don't want them to do. They will run you around in circles and you won't even understand how or why. Okay, I'm going to do a con next so that we can end on a positive note. And the next con is that sourcing rats responsibly can be difficult depending on where you live. So for a myriad of reasons, I don't recommend getting rats from pet stores. It is not a safe or healthy way to continue the hobby, and the rats tend to not live very long and often come with a lot of health issues, including being missexed or pregnant, which can result in you wanting 2 rats and ending up with 20 rats. And you don't need that. So finding a decent breeder can be difficult. A lot of breeders will lie and trick people into thinking that something is okay when it really, really isn't. And it can be hard to find a good breeder. Rescues are typically easier, but not everyone has a rat rescue near them, and the ASPCA doesn't always have rats. In fact, most of the time they don't have rats. So rehoming rats can be the best option for you, but at the same time, finding them can be difficult. So sourcing rats responsibly is a headache for every responsible rat owner out there. Now, the last positive I have for you guys. So since you have to get rats in either pairs or trios, preferably for your first set, you get to watch their social dynamics, which is fun and it's cute. Rats can form tight bonds with each other just like they can you, and they love each other so much, and it feels good to see that. It feels good to see how much they lean on each other and how much they love you in return and how happy it makes them. So you get to watch things like them grooming each other, sleeping in giant rat piles together. Sometimes they even work together to like figure out a foraging toy if it's particularly difficult. There's a lot of really cute, fun behaviors having multiple rats gives you. And that's not the case with a lot of animals. A lot of animals you can't or shouldn't get multiple of at the same time because either they're a solitary animal or it causes behavioral issues. But with rats, you should get multiples at the same time, and watching them interact is one of the funnest parts about having them. Like, here's a picture Cappy took of the dwarves in a perfect cute little rat stack. Isn't that just the cutest thing? Alright, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you know what to do. All the fun stuff down below. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!